the Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we are talking about empathetic marketing, connecting with customers beyond the sale. I'm Steven Zakash here with Tulio Siragusa and Mike Lusky. Hey guys.
Let's do this.
Hey, Steven.
Let's do it. So when you market with empathy, you're not just selling, you're serving. So remember the last time you saw an ad that felt like it was shouting at you or something? Like, I swear there's an Amazon ad right now that is driving me nuts, that is just pretty much shouting at me. But compare that to a moment when you have a brand that really genuinely kind of understands your struggle, like they're speaking directly to what you were going through. So empathetic marketing is about understanding the human behind the consumer. It's not just about what consumers buy, but why they buy it, what they feel, and how we can meet their deeper needs. It's about trust and relationships rather than transactions. Mike, let's set the stage here. Why does empathy matter so much in today's marketing?
Yeah, Steven, I think that was really well said. And I guess if I had to start off maybe first with defining empathy, so that we have a shared understanding, is I would say that, empathy, the way that I think about it, is your pain or the customer's struggles, but in my heart, right? Or in the heart of the brand. And so if we think about it, that way, I think that's, what customers are really looking for today, right? Perhaps one of the benefits of having all this data and having all this information available to us is that the customer is a lot smarter, right? They can get to information a lot quicker. But on top of that, with them being really well informed, is I think that they're looking to, or they're trying to gravitate towards brands that get them, right? Because before it used to take so much time to go do your shopping or find what you needed. But now that's all gone, right? You can do that pretty quickly. So now I think the customer is savvier. They're really looking for a long-term connection, and seeing, what brands are transparent, what brands are really being sincere about, who they are and who they want to serve. And then what are the values that we share, right? So that we can, perhaps, make the world a better place, make life more interesting, and kind of improve the quality of life. So I'd say, that's really one of the big drivers of that today.
Yeah, that's so true. Tulio, what are the foundational principles of empathetic marketing that brands need to focus on to build those deeper connections that Mike's talking about?
Yeah, one of the strong principles predicated on empathy is design thinking, and the first phase of that is understanding. But I actually think there's a phase before understanding, and that's curiosity. And that's where everything happens. Being curious about what is the problem, that you're trying to solve, being curious about the individuals, just being completely curious, that generates desire. And then from the desire comes understanding. So empathy really starts with understanding. And you have to see customers not as just a data point. It's not about the demographic, psychographic information. These are all nice data points, but it's about understanding the human side of things, what they're struggling with, what their hopes are, and what their dreams are. So once you begin to understand those elements, then you are deeply connected with, synthesizing the rational mind and the heart, right? The mind is the logical, transaction oriented, which is important when I have a transaction with a client, but the heart is what makes people choose you because they want an experience. So it's really about listening more than selling, and building trust by addressing the deeper needs of individuals, not just the transactional needs, but their emotional needs, their experiential needs. And this is not just surface level wants, but really digging in and understanding what makes the person tick. And as Mike just said, it's like, do you get them? So to get them, you first have to be curious about them and understand them at a much deeper level.
Without a doubt. I think that's really well put on there. Tulio, I'm going to come back to you actually. Let's talk, I guess, a little bit more about understanding that customer and even, what's inside of their world. So how do we perhaps, move, like you said, move beyond the demographic data, looking at customers as a data point to really start to uncover the emotional drivers behind the customer behavior?
Well, I think we've done a good job over the years with the right set of questions that gave us those data points. But those questions were limited to achieving, again, a transactional type of relationship. So we need to get better at asking better questions that go a little bit deeper, that allows us to have more open-ended type of conversations where we're listening to what the customers are saying. Instead of going in and validating what we think they need, that's been the approach historically. I've got all this experience. This is how I'm going to do it. I understand the industry. Let me go validate this offering, right? So the questions can actually be skewed in favor of validating what you're trying to do. It's not about that. This is actually being curious and open-minded to asking more questions for understanding. So it's really not just about your product and about their lives. And so you have to observe online discussions, what's being said on social media, and keep digging deeper to get to this place where you understand what keeps people up at night. I always think of this question: what's at stake for them? If you understand what's at stake for someone, meaning why they do what they do, why is that important, then you have a really foundational approach to empathetic messaging. So, for example, if I could go buy a suit because I have an interview coming up, and I can buy a suit anywhere, I can perform that transaction anywhere, and it will fulfill my need for a suit. But if I understand why you're buying that suit, maybe you've got an interview coming up, maybe you've had a difficult year, you just had a child, whatever circumstances, which are readily available, people share that stuff, right? Once I understand why you need that suit, well, I need to show up powerfully at this interview so I can get this job, so I can take better care of my family, then you have a deeper understanding. You can be more empathetic of why you need the suit. And I can sell you the suit, I can sell you something that's going to make you feel confident and powerful. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out where the consumer who's trying to get a job at an interview is going to levitate towards that understands what they need in that moment.
Yeah. Super powerful.
I think this is why one of the things we do at our agency is we teach emotional intelligence. It's such a critical skill for marketers, right? So, Mike, how can teams develop this skill to craft campaigns that truly resonate?
Yeah, Steve, I'm actually really glad that you mentioned that. And I think going back to something Tulio said was around, being curious is like, what is, the why that this customer is starting to engage with us. And so once that curiosity is there, we actually, like we'll always love to say, God gave us 2 ears, but 1 mouth. So really it's about active listening, right? And being interested, not just, brands don't need to just be interesting. I think that brands really need to be interested. And so by having that active listening, starting to get feedback. Tulio, talked about what's being said on social media or what's being said on reviews about your product or your service. And with that, then you can take that in and make adjustments, right? That's the wonderful thing about the world that at least we live in today. You can get this feedback loop a lot less, with a lot less time, and have it be a lot less expensive. And so I think with us, even at our agency, encourage the teams to, take a moment to stop. Do I have any sort of bias that maybe I'm taking into analyzing this information? Remove that, and then really just try to design a campaign based on what's being said, right? And I think that when marketers are emotionally intelligent, their messages end up feeling more supportive to their audiences, rather than just sort of being tone deaf and let me tell you what you need to think and let me tell you what I got to tell you. And it's all about them. So active listening, and then putting that into practice so that comes through in our messaging.
Yeah, it's such a great point. And people do feel that today. If it's not being done correctly, they feel sort of exploited, right? So it's important to also understand the difference between empathy and sympathy. So a lot of brands will say, let's see what problem we want to solve. And you could be sympathetic to the problem you're trying to solve. And sympathy says, I feel sorry for you. But one of the things I love about the process of design thinking is that in the empathize stage, it encourages you to fall in love with the problem so it becomes your own. And so then empathy really says, I understand your feelings and I'm here with you, not for you, with you. There's a difference. So, it's really being alongside the customer. It's making ourselves the customer along with them. So we create a sense of community with each other, resonance with each other. That's a really powerful way to reshape how you market to a customer, because you're marketing to yourself because you're part of that community. It's a different mindset for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's where we flip it to being serving, right? To serving. It's about serving versus selling. So let's get practical here, though. What kind of tools can we use? I know, Mike, we're working on empathy mapping and customer journey tools. Walk us through how teams can use those kind of tools effectively.
Yeah, and I think it's certainly a critical thing to have tools today that allow you to really do this. So I think it starts with, one, what is the customer's journey going to be, right? So empathy mapping is really about, listing where the customer is, right? What are they going to hear? What are they going to see? What are they going to feel, right? And then what environment are they in, so that as a brand, you can really meet them where they are, right? And so it really helps if teams understand emotional triggers and crafting messages that truly connect, right? Like, I'll just give you, one example. We might have, as an agency, right, a perfectly good post that says something about, are you looking for, digital marketing services, right? Contact us. It's like, okay, I mean, that's fine. But something to flip that around, are you feeling overwhelmed with everything that's taking place with your business and trying to grow your business, helping your employees, putting food on the table or getting kids through college? Like, are you feeling overwhelmed? Hey, we can help you with that. That's such a different approach. It just flips it almost, on its head. So I think, being able to craft a message that truly connects like that. What emotion are they having and where are they at, right? It really allows the brand to sort of step into their shoes and understand the customer's reality a little bit better.
Absolutely. And one of the most powerful tools is to ask why 5 levels deep. I've actually done this, and it feels really uncomfortable when you go to the next why, and the person starts getting
like, why are you being annoying?
Why are you asking me why, right? But it's fascinating. By the time you get to the 5th why, you understand the why of, like, the motivation behind why someone does what they do. And then when you understand the motivation, you really can capture how to get their attention. So always ask why multiple times, 5 times deep. You can go deeper if you can stomach it, but 5 times deep is probably as deep as you want to go. And understand people's motivation and just listen, take notes, and validate the experiences along the way. And this helps build the trust. Once you understand that, you've got a deeper understanding of what motivates a consumer or a customer, not just what it's like the interview idea, right? What's motivating is, I want to land the job. It's not the suit. It's that I want to land the job.
So 25 years ago or so, is that right? About 20, maybe a little bit longer. We didn't have, like, social media in the mix with all this. So I think social listening is another one of those kind of game changers. Mike, how can marketers use user-generated content and social listening to better understand the audience?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you bring that up, because it has been, very much a game changer for marketers. And you can see the brands that are using it and the ones that aren't. There's a gap. So, really the social listening tools are allowing brands these days to track conversations and sentiment. Before we used to, back in the old days of PR, you not only used to track mentions, but were they positive mentions or were they negative mentions? And it was like, no press is bad press, right? As long as we're getting press. And that's just not really the case in today's world anymore. So with these social listening tools, and I'll just give you an example, right? Customers might be discussing a particular frustration, maybe with a software product or something that they're using. And you can directly address it in your campaigns. One, obviously like fix it in the tool, or if there is a solution for that, communicate that out. Even some brands go so far as to respond and engage with customers via social. And I think that probably will fix and create the strongest connection. Like, I'll just give you another example, right? Let's just say, for example, you're a stove company, right? Someone's having a really bad time. They have all these people over for Thanksgiving dinner, and they run into an issue with their oven. They, maybe the next few days or something, they complain about it, or maybe in the moment they complain, looking for a solution. A brand that would listen to that, respond back, and fix that situation. That customer is going to tell, everybody in their community about the benefit and how, a certain brand may have stepped in to help the scenario. So I think really directly addressing it either in our marketing campaigns and communications, but even in the customer support that exists out there, is really a great way, right? Responding genuinely to these insights is going to build the trust that those brands are seeking for. And no customer is going to give up support like that.
Yeah, let's talk some real world examples here. I know, so we've got in-house like this list of massive 600 pages or something of real world examples of this kind of marketing. Mike, what stands out on some of the marketers using this? I know some of these have gone viral. People might be familiar with a few of them, but what comes to mind for you as far as some real world examples of marketing campaigns?
Yeah, without a doubt. And, feel free to jump in, because I'm sure, you all have, some of the ones that are near and dear to your heart. But as I was putting this research together for our agency, I came across the Real Beauty campaign. Without a doubt, I think that's one that has gone viral. But the one that really stood out to me was this campaign involved a forensic artist. And, Dove had, for example, these women come in, and without they'd never met the forensic artist. The artist hasn't even seen these women, right? And he goes through and asks the women themselves to describe themselves. And, he goes through and puts together all of these, sketches and, pencil sketches of these women. And then they have, some of these other women, or even their friends.
Someone who was sitting with them, I think, before they came in there.
Yeah.
That comes in and is like, now they want to ask this total stranger, describe that person you were sitting with, right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Describe. and at the end, so the artist again goes off of what the acquaintance or, the other stranger that had seen this other woman off of their description. And then they put, all of these photos up side by side. It looks like it must be in a warehouse or an empty apartment in New York City somewhere. And then they have the women kind of come back and walk through and look at their own description of themselves, and then look at the description of somebody else. And you can immediately see the description of the stranger or the person that was describing the woman just stands out. They're way more, beautiful. Features are much more positive. And, the women themselves were much harder on themselves and much more negative.
I always say, like, we are our biggest critics, right? We don't need, we don't need it. And so, the women, when they're articulating how they imagine themselves very critical, and the artist is obviously going along with that. But then the stranger who completely met them, is just seeing them totally different. And that was a very emotionally connecting and moving ad. You could just feel it in there. It's hard not to get through it without. There's some short versions and long versions. Look them up on YouTube. They're really powerful. Another ad comes to mind for you, Mike?
Yeah. So, again, the Always brand, being the dad of two daughters, I always, had them engage in sports, and you wanted them to have this positive self-image of themselves and, take on the world with confidence. So one that really connected with me was, the Always brand's Like a Girl campaign. And what's so interesting, I think, about that is the first parts of the advertisement, show all of these negative examples of like a girl, like how a girl runs, or how a girl dances, or how a girl throws a ball. And
didn't they have like people describing what does it mean to throw like a girl or run like a girl, and then you had like some little boys or something, or people really giving this negative connotation of what that meant, right? In the ad.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of that, as you're going through it, you are emotionally cringing at what is being displayed, right? Yeah. Because of the stereotypes that were being demonstrated, right? And then at one point you hear the director say, okay, let's cut now. And they actually, in some of the instances I've seen, we're asking the actors, I guess we could, say at this point, how do you think, you've just represented women? Or how do you think, if you had a sister or your mom, they would feel about how you just described them? And then just all of a sudden, like the bulb goes off, like, oh my gosh, like I'm just being totally negative about this. And then, asking some of these, girls again. So, show me, what is it really to run like a girl mean? What does it really mean to throw like a girl? And you see, just their appearance and their performance completely change, right? Like confidence shows up, strength shows up, really the ability that, I think I can do this just as well as anybody. And so it totally, I think, flipped the thought behind, the stereotype of like a girl, right? I mean, using messages like rewriting the rules, run like a girl, throw like a girl, win like a girl is a very positive thing. So, here I am getting all emotional.
No, I'm feeling it too. I'm like, oh man, we're going to have to jump off this one, because I'm picturing my daughter, and I picture the exact moments you're talking about. And it's very, congratulations on getting through that, Mike.
I mean, an ad like that is also educational, because it's not even stereotype. It's straight up like showing you the misogyny that exists.
Yeah, no, and it's like connecting.
Like, here's a little education on misogyny. Take a look, and you're like, whoa, that's not good.
As a brand, it's connecting to your higher purpose, and not just selling your product or whatever. It's connecting to your higher purpose, which connects to people. And like I said, Mike, I'm glad you got through that, and everyone's
I mean, the great thing is like, I'm never going to use an Always product, right? As a male, but
you're a dad, damn it, and you're fighting for your daughter,
right?
Yeah.
And same here. Like I was talking about taking.
You're right. I have two girls too. I'm a customer. I'm an Always customer because of those campaigns, because I want my daughters to feel empowered. So I connect to that. Yeah, absolutely, it works.
Yeah, we're all girl dads here.
Exactly.
I know. So these ads are very difficult to come up with, and that's one of the things with our AI Chief Marketing Officer tool is we've really kind of programmed the AI to help brainstorm ideas that are really connecting. So if you haven't done that yet, get on the wait list, or go over there at AICMO.io and get on that list, because it's got some very unique tools that look at your higher purpose, use some of these emotionally connecting ideas and concepts, and then carry those through your ad campaigns or whatever you're doing. Could be blog, could be email, could be Google ads, social ads, you name it, we've got it.
Yeah.
So one little thing, those of you got on the wait list a while ago, you've had to wait a little longer. Those who get on it now, you have a very short time.
Yeah, we have a very, very short time. That's right. So let's move on a little bit here. So, empathetic marketing, it sounds amazing. But one of the things that, while building that product, we were, recognized early on is we really need to help companies walk the walk, not just talk the talk, because it has a risk of coming across as performative, right? If you're just, hey, you're still being transactional, you're just using, empathy to manipulate people. So we don't want that at all, and that'll backfire on you badly. Tulio, how can brands avoid this trap?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's, I think, also one of the great things about AI CMO is that while we build a purpose builder, because we actually can help brands do something that's really important, which is genuinely care. You have to care about the customers you're serving. It's got to become a purpose that surrounds you. So you don't just say what you think customers want to hear, because it shows up disingenuous. You want to follow through with your actions, the way you work, the way you operate. So it's not, you're addressing their needs, not as a checks box. Like I have a list of things, I'm going to check this off and this is going to work. No, it's tied to genuine care, and it's got to be sincere. And people will know whether it's sincere or not. They can feel it. It's not something you can fake.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think, to that point too, along with that point, Tulio, empathy has to be reflected internally, right? Mm-hmm. And so with the companies, with their culture, if it isn't empathetic, it's just going to be hard for their marketing to feel that authenticity, right? So really all the way down from the leadership, it needs to set the tone. The culture needs to involve empathy in it, so that really by prioritizing kindness and respect, that can be shown in every decision that the company ends up making, and every message too that the company ends up putting out.
So let's share some actionable tips for our listeners. Obviously, go down to aicmo.io and get on that list. But Mike, what are some steps brands can take to start practicing empathetic marketing today? I know we've talked about this a little bit, but what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think the two ears, one mouth analogy or metaphor is a good one. So certainly, listening a bit more than a brand is broadcasting out, keeping an open mind, right, by either using surveys or having interviews to be able to really understand the customers, and I think also reward those customers for, appreciate them for the information that they've provided. Second, I would say, go back, revisit the personas through that empathy lens. I think, we focus a lot on the demographics, and I know psychographic information is also included in some marketing campaigns, but really looking, at it in a totality of the empathy lens, and then including the emotional drivers, the concerns. What is the customer really truly looking to accomplish? Make that part of the messaging. And I'd say third, probably adjust the messaging to show customers that you have heard them, right? That they have been heard, and that there's more of a connection. I know we've thrown around the metaphor of moving from this blaring speaker of broadcasting out a message to creating a magnet where the two, the metal really feels that connection and wants to connect, and I think that's what can be done. Fourth, implement, I think, empathy mapping in your customer journey. So if someone's in the awareness stage, what are those feelings? What are the positive and negative fears that they might have? And then address them through your messaging, and all the way through, even once somebody has become a customer. How are they feeling now? What message do they need at that point? And I think just in the end, continuously, getting that feedback and change the approach. Like we love to say also, there's no limit to better. So once you've gotten there, continue to iterate and improve on it.
Yeah, and something interesting you said here, the idea of beginning to look at like empathy mapping, emotional drivers, fear and aspiration. If you've never done this as a brand, the minute you say, okay, let's create an empathy map into our messaging, that's going to spark up all kinds of curiosity. That'll be the beginning of the process of understanding, how do we apply this? What does that mean to us? And it's a skill that grows with practice, empathy. So as you make time every quarter to reassess your messaging, you want to ensure that it's very customer centric and authentic, and just beginning to have a model that says, let's question whether we are pulling the empathetic levers here, and be curious about what that looks like. Let's go talk to more customers. Let's understand them a little bit better. Let's understand ourselves a little bit better. How can we apply this internally and within the organization? That's the transformative nature of this. It's not just coming up with a cool slogan that's empathetic. It's actually beginning to connect both what you're doing internally and externally. And that practice becomes then second nature. It's very important to practice it. It's a muscle that can be grown over time.
I'm glad you said that. They use that muscle analogy. You're totally right about that, Tulio. Some brands don't have that muscle. It needs to be developed. And just like a muscle, maybe you've developed it, but if you ignore it and move to something else, it'll atrophy.
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like we've been in that knee deep for years, but even still, we're still new muscles there, right? Just this week, we were just talking about that. Hey, let's add this to a meeting, kind of thing. That was a empathetic check. So, Mike, I'd like to ask you this question. I've asked it to Tulio. You guys have asked it to me.
Your turn in the hot seat.
I get the question now.
You get the question now. What do you say to those who say, do they, boy, and I can't even ask it, Tulio. I can't even spit it out. Do you think love belongs in business, Mike?
Wait, let me put Mike in the hot seat first. Here we go.
I got a feeling I know the question. Yeah, I mean,
I got a feeling.
No, you got to let him ask the question.
Yeah. Do you love
Somebody
it?
ask the question. Nobody but once we were trying to close the show and we went at it for like 10 minutes. Stephen couldn't get the words out.
Oh wow.
No one's ever seen it.
All right, Mike, let me cue up again.
Do
you think love belongs in business?
Yeah. I mean, does love belong in business? I don't even understand why we have to ask that question, Stephen, because the answer just seems so obvious. I get that, maybe in some organizations will think, okay, like we absolutely have to have love in a particular vertical. Like, let's just say you're in healthcare, right? And it's like, okay, naturally it goes there. But I don't care. It's like if you're in junk removal, right? You can still have love. It's like just a thought for a junk removal company. Why are you being called, to this? Like, has someone passed away? Like, what is this family going through? What's the situation? Like, we're not here to just remove junk, because then it just is a commoditized service, right? That you can get anywhere, and it's going to be, this amount of money or this cost, per load or per, ton or whatever. But even in a junk removal company, if they show that empathy and they go that extra step, it's going to create a lasting bond that, that customer is going to probably tell somebody, I mean, oh, you wouldn't believe how they made us feel. We were going through this really difficult situation, time of transition or what have you. And you can build a real connection there. So it's an opportunity that, I think a lot of organizations, unfortunately, don't take advantage of. So, yeah, I mean, love actually, does have a very big place in business. It's probably why we're in business in the first place.
Yeah, and I think
what a great example on that junk removal. Like, talk about elevating your business.
He tied it right in perfectly to empathetic marketing right there to close it. Well done, Mike. And yeah, I mean, we asked that question, and some of our guests are a little uncomfortable with it and stuff. And I know I ask it outside of the podcast to people, and it's something they just don't think about. So that's why we ask it all the time. But beautifully said, Mike. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tulio. Thanks to our listeners for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode, and we will see you next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.
We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thanks, Stephen.